So I'm Deborah Woodard. I'm one of the presenters, and I'm going to be reading the introduction to the event that she supplied me with. Okay. This is the fourth in a series of 6 readings celebrating the publication of recent poetry books by Jack Straw Writing Program alumni. And featured tonight are Suzanne Bottelli, Sharon Hashimoto, Anne Hursey, Raúl Sanchez, Carletta Carrington Wilson, and myself, Deborah Woodard. Thank you so much again for coming, and also for listening in, because this event is being simulcast on Facebook and YouTube and recorded for later. And we want to take a moment before we go any further to acknowledge that today we meet on the lands of the Duwamish, Snoqualmie, and Muckleshoot nations and other Coast Salish peoples, past and present. The staff, board, and artists of Jack Straw Cultural Center acknowledge that we are living, creating, working, and playing on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle and the Salish Sea, and we honor them and the land itself with deep gratitude. We also want to thank Jack Straw Cultural Center, especially Joan Rabinowitz and the mighty Levi Fuller, who is not here tonight, and our engineers, Zios, pronunciation glitches, now and later, Green, and Aaron Shellman. And we also acknowledge funders, Seattle Office of Arts and Culture for Culture, Washington State Arts Commission, National Endowments for the Arts, Arts Fund, Lester and Phyllis Epstein Foundation, Rainier Institute and Foundation, and individual contributors. Kathleen Flanagan apologizes for missing this reading due to illness. She conceived of this reading series to showcase some of the recent poetry books published by Jack Straw Writers Program alumni. The pandemic made readings and book launches very difficult, and poets especially rely on readings and shared spaces to promote their work. This is a chance to celebrate these books again. And I'd also like to add a shout out to Kathleen Flanagan for putting together this program and conceiving of it. It's a lot of work to do a program like this, a lot of emails, and Kathleen, we thank you. Okay, each reader will read for 10 minutes, and we'll take a 5-minute break after the third reader and then return for the final 3. So we're going to try to be as tight as possible on time, because this is getting live streamed, and because if people are watching online, they may not come back after a lengthy pause. So we're going to aim for as close to 5 minutes as possible for the pause. So it's my great pleasure to introduce our first reader, Suzanne Bottelli, who was a 2000 Jack Straw writer. Suzanne Bottelli's poems and reviews have appeared in Poetry Northwest, Scoundrel Time, The Collagist, and Prairie Schooner, among others. Her newest chapbook, American Grubble, is available from Ravenna Press's Triple Series. The Feltville Formation, her first chapbook, was with Finishing Line Press. She teaches English at Casa Latina in Seattle. Let's welcome Suzanne.
Thank you very much, Deborah. And thanks so much to Jack Straw. I love Jack Straw, the programming they do, the vision they have, and just the really creative spirit that the programming brings to preserving culture, celebrating culture, and a lot of crossover hybrid work that I also love. It's really a thrill to be here and to be with some of my original Jack Straw cohort and old friends and new friends, and just really honored to be part of this lineup, and really thankful to Kathleen for bringing us all together. I'm going to read from my chapbook that is called American Grubble. I was honored to be included in here with Philip Quinn and Susan Landgraf, and really grateful for the supportive folks at Ravenna Press for the care they brought to the publication. I'm trying to see past my microphone here. Here we go. Can you still hear me okay? Yeah. Okay. I'm going to start with this poem called Letter to the Future, and it was inspired by a walk that I got to take with Allison Hawthorne Deming. A carved-up birch tells us lovers once embraced here. The scarred bark, the wound their testament has made. And young Chris, the Eagle Scout, has moved some cannons into place. The slab they stand on, gifted by the local concrete dealer. But I'm here to notice other markers, the twin trunks of two blistered beeches, locked in a dance and dying together. This iridescent oil sheen in a pocket of river mud. How many browns and greens in the world? The soft rain coming on makes them shine. A barbed wire line this tree has grown around speaks to the bargain we've made, this stubborn ongoing with rust at the heart. The poems in this sequence are all really place-based, deeply interrogating at some points my own nostalgia about these remembered places, also exploring just the different layers, partly of environmental history, also of social history. And I have a whole dream of a book someday called Buildings That Are No Longer Here, because long before Vanishing Seattle, I have had this kind of feeling about all these spaces vanishing from my childhood home landscape in New Jersey. This one's called Arcade at Asbury Park, New Jersey, which is where my grandparents lived, and I spent a lot of time down there. A building which no longer exists. Arcade at Asbury Park, New Jersey. Always first to the fun house. Frozen cartwheels in the blue rolling barrel. Hendrix and black lights and kids from Neptune drooped against walls. In the red tilted room, lurching down the up steps, climbing up the down. Bloated mirrors and different parts of us, pregnant. In the black passageway, shrieking steam, heads in cases, a kid with a clicker counts how many of us come out. The carousel stupid after this, with flash bulbs flashing and the same goofs waving every time round, still leaning out anyway, like trick riders, stretching from just one stirrup for the cold brass ring that gets us, if our crooked fingers are lucky, a fat electric blue bear, gigantic and hideously grinning. The day we win, we carry the bear onto Asbury's famous Ferris wheel. Out through the ceiling, the wheel lifts us up into sea air and drizzle. Above Ocean Avenue, above Ocean Grove, back down into the din, but up again, resting once at the top spot, the small metal cage squeaking there, the bear smelling like pepper, the stupid music miles away. This poem is called Ironbound. It's set in a neighborhood in Newark, New Jersey that is kind of contained by the railroad on one side and the Passaic River on the other side. And it's a long time industrial neighborhood. It's that waterway right there is one of the most heavily polluted waterways on the planet. It was a Superfund site that still hasn't been completely cleaned because it's so disruptive to deal with the sediment of years and years of industry, including a lot of paint factories and solvent factories, and most of the Agent Orange that was produced during the Vietnam War was produced there. So it's a difficult place and history. It's also a cool neighborhood with all these awesome restaurants and Black and Portuguese families, and my own family history is tied there. This poem goes back and back in those layers. Ironbound. Before the waterfront renewal project with its green playfields and jumpsuit orange boardwalk, before the capped and lidded landfill containers in their 6-acre clay-sealed gravel-topped pit, before the fixtures were unscrewed and the structures dismantled, the furnace ducts of the neighbors and the dust from their vacuum cleaner bags and the soil from their backyard gardens measured for parts per million by the guys in moon suits who appeared in the wake of the governor's sudden announcement. Before the herbicide company sold the property to the solvent company, before the last of the 8,000 tons of orange sludge, before the days when the reactor boilover was hosed down the old blood troughs and into the river, before Diamond Shamrock Chemical switched from pesticides to herbicides, before the Second Indochina War, before Ginsburg fled Patterson and then New York, before Williams wrote of a granular stench, and before my father was born to Genevieve, and before his father was born to Anna, and before her father finally retired from his foreman's duties, the Lister Agricultural Chemical Works was founded along this neck of river to grind up bones for glue and grease to make things go, and for feeding the soil to make things grow. This poem is set in Washington State. It's called Una Cosa Profunda up in Stevens County. The ravens are screeching the death alarm, making a racket up by the fence line. Down here, a leisurely bunting seems to laugh at each of my queries. This wind in my arms, this body singing inside itself. I will tell you how it happened. We were trucking the pies to market, past the gravel pits and the brick kiln, past the tribal marker. There was a shaft of sunlight in your lap, something grassy in the air. My arms and legs began to hum like. A brand new word was whistling at the windows, and I thought, yes, there is more than one vocation. This poem is called Bonnet. It's set on the Hanford Nuclear Reservation, where you can take a free tour as a taxpayer once a year. There's a chance to sign up. It's 5 hours long. It's a 100-acre site, and it's kind of fascinating who's on that bus and what the bus driver's telling you, and the whole. It's very informative, but pretty alarming too. Okay, Bonnet. The woman on the Waste Site tour bus wore the kind of bonnet my grandmother kept in her purse for emergencies. She squared her shoulders in front of us, the plastic kerchief knotted to her head, and not a cloud in the sky. Our guide in charge of mission safety, shepherd and sheepdog, doled out a smooth ribbon of facts for our consumption, calmly rubbing a magnetic cuff on one wrist, eyeing his watch on the other. Meanwhile, the woman took her own sweet time, hunched in her seat at one site, lingering out in the burning glare at the next. Everyone back on the bus, but her gaze still tilted at the blank spots where all her life first happened. We ate our obedient sandwiches, stared at the fields of containment, the chopped up submarine parts in a spare lot visible from space. We marked the gleaming, half-built glassification plant above the buried tank farms, finding the river. And that woman had been, straight out of high school, hired as a stenographer, secretary at the Hanford site right in the middle of the war. Yeah. Looking at my clock here, I'm just going to read one very last poem, the title poem. It's called American Grubble, and it's a phrase that was supposedly coined by Mayor Ed Koch in New York City. Gene Shepard, who was a radio commentator, used to just ramble late at night on the radio, but he went off one time about this road near my childhood home called Route 22, and it's just like this gritty outskirts of town. It goes straight out of New York and all the way to Pennsylvania, and there's all this just random ex-urban clutter there. And he's famous for saying everybody in his soul, at least in his American soul, has a Route 22. And I just love that. So I decided to write my own Route 22 poem. American Grubble, after Gene Shepard and for Kim Bishop, who's a close friend of mine who died the week after we graduated from high school. She died of cancer. As when we slowed at the statuary lots or drove past the smoke-filled roller rink, thinking suddenly of the dead. Nothing lovely on display there, but all of it beautiful in its blare. Orthopedic showrooms and catering halls, gravestones and cherubs perched on concrete bird baths, and Crazy Eddie's screaming sign, "We will not be undersold." Who could possibly visit them all? Most of it speeding by, the rush and whir of particulars, and always the whiff of the undertaker, that vaguely named figure who arrives so lightly to lift and usher the toughest of us into another dimension, who, smoothing our friend's crinkled smile and gravel-warm laugh into a flat matter of lipstick, means no harm. Neon red smeared in the windshield the whole way home. Thank you. I want to introduce the next reader, who will be Sharon Hashimoto. Sharon Hashimoto's first poetry book is The Crane Wife, which is reprinted by Red Hen Press in 2021. Her second poetry collection, More American, won the 2021 Off the Grid Poetry Prize and the 2022 Washington State Book Award in Poetry. Her debut short story collection, Stealing Home, is forthcoming in May 2024 from Grid Books. Please welcome Sharon Hashimoto.
I guess this sounds okay? That's all you got to do. Okay. So I want to thank Susan for all those lovely poems that she was reading, and thank everybody else who showed up here for today. I wanted to start off with when my book was first being done, More American, in 2021 during COVID, I had no idea what to do about a cover. So I asked Alan Lau, and he said, "I want to make you happy." And what he did is he read the first, I don't know how far he went, but he read the first parts of the book. And what he did is he made these little quick sketches of how he was inspired by all the poems in the beginning. So I thought, wow, that's a lot of work. And so he ended up with this for the cover. And I'm very, very, very happy with it. And I wanted to start off by reading the first poem, which is the one that he so graciously did for the cover. And this is called One of the World's Oldest Twins Dies at Age 107 in Japan. Kin Narita, 1892 to 2000. Dear sister, whoever thought we'd live this long? Monkey brows furrowed, the remnants of our hair wisping around necks, tickling our ears. First things we lose last, and I am forgetting the names of all those children. Your 11, my 4 girls, the dead husbands whose photographs dangle on the bedroom wall. Such men wouldn't recognize us now. What's left is our first steps toddling through the farm, chickens broody on their nests, pungent straw and manure, the eggshell pulsing warm in fingers and palm. I know the throb in the hollow of your throat beat in rhythm with mine. Someone knelt beside my wheelchair, told me you had the flu, how you skipped breakfast, wanting to sleep through the morning meal. No egg on rice. Nothing was sadder than this. A part of me doesn't know you've died. My breath catches as if I'm a girl, running just out of reach of your hand. I think Susan's really right about there's so many places in Seattle, and I'm starting to see them disappear. And I'm also thinking about how I didn't take advantage of so many things when I was a student at the University of Washington. And I finally, after many, many, many years, finally got to see the astronomy, the observatory. So we finally went there and saw the subject of this moment, which is Theodore Jacobson Observatory, University of Washington. Too much lamplight in the parking lot from moving vehicles dims the stars, rising above the cityscape of condominiums and shopping malls. We fit one eye to the telescope to view the rings of Saturn tilting out of view and the summer triangle of Vega, Altair, and Deneb. So near, so far. Our feet feel rooted to this earth, and we are spinning in space. What invisible energies hold us together? Big bang, big crunch, big chill. Each night we stare into space, witness the pinprick points of the past, just arriving. Okay. And More American has a lot of family poems. And one of the things that my dad kind of told me was about how in World War II, he actually didn't have any active duty, but he definitely had his own experiences. And I'll probably say that there's a part in the poem that talks about how in the battalion, 100th Battalion, the 442nd, there was some friction between the groups of people there. So my dad was from Hawaii. He's Japanese Hawaiian. And then there's the West Coast Japanese. And so there's some friction there. So this is called Letter to My Father from His Friend Overseas, August 1944. And I'll stop and say that this whole poem's in Pidgin, which my father never lost that accent. Okay. Dear Isami, hey, Bretta, it been long time since you, me, and crazy guy Clyde walk out of old McKinley High. 'Member playing pool, stick in hand, elbow in air, ball in side pocket, on wall how we see Uncle Sam. Eyebrows all bushy white, pointing finger, I want you. Good thing Clyde bad eyes make him 4F. Good thing your mother say no, you too young. Recruiter give me stink eye because I Japanese, but I remember 100th Battalion, one puka puka. First we think uniform with arm patch, stripe make us look good. Here's secret, Japanese small. So small we wear girl clothes, blouses cut down. Sometime we get special requisition, combat boot too big. Hilo guy wears size 2.5 EEE. Camp Shelby, Mississippi, me Ockheim people. Mainland boys call me Buddha head, but I no pig. We Hawaiians call them katonk. You know, coconut sound hitting ground. Sure, they get confused. I say, you go, stay go. I go, stay come. He shake head, point finger that circle round and round. Other explain, you go ahead and go, and I'll come layered on. Bombay, we get along. And then we go Italy, but boat take a long time. Zigzag around submarines. Berth 5 deep, me on top. Everybody sick, sick. No make fun. First time fighting, I get chicken skin. German tank fire. Man next to me go down. Arms, legs, all twisted like. Blood all over throat. Pow. Gone. So fast. 'Kay then, I say to self, but lots more. Isami, this hard to say. Maybe you think, what's the matter you? Every day we watch high place in broken building. We go face down in mud. Lucky one, carried out on stretcher. Try pretend. Try not ask. Today, day I die. Stay home, Isami. This for real. Your family need you. No come, stay. Long as you can. Your pal, Tack. So since we're on Hawaii and we're talking about parents, let's do this poem, which is called In Hawaii We Do This. No one wanted to hold my hand at Brighton Elementary when the wart appeared on the base of my ring finger. It was lumpy with ridges like barnacles speckling ocean stones. I wore bow-tie dresses with pockets, keeping my fists closed. And under pressure, in the damp heat of my fingers, the wart dug in and grew. The doctor's growing punk couldn't burn hot or deep enough. Maybe Dad saw I believed more in frog spit and the harsh words of my friends. In Hawaii, my father said, we do this, and his knife split the eggplant. 2 tear shapes fell to the sides. Dad rubbed the juice into my hand. Then I followed him to the far corner of our backyard where the day seemed dim. No one would believe me, I thought, as we buried the eggplant. I smelled the earth of Dad's shovel tamped it down. He nodded with the rhythm of his words. When this rots, your wart will die and fall off. All the way back into dinner, he held my sticky hand. Okay, I got one more poem I was going to read, and this is from the point of view of a cow. This is called Nuclear Cattle, Fukushima, Japan. That day I stood, knees locked, on my 4 feet, to stand my ground as it began to sway. I didn't see, but I smelled the change, dirt littered with fallen swallows overwhelmed by muddy ash. My herd wandered through broken fences. Some lay where they were tethered. Others died with heads thrust through the holes of the troughs, wanting to be fed. On the dirt farm road, buses shuttled our people away. Dogs, pigs, cats, we were all left behind. Only our voices filled the air. Soon bodies lay amid splintered hordes and puddles. Some of us survived on our own, grazing the abandoned rice paddies. We lifted our heads to bulldozers and tractors hauling the dead to burning pyres, inky columns of smoke billowing in the wind. 40 days later, my farmer came back. The pasture land is overgrazed. Hungry, I eat whatever feed he brings me, though white spots break out along my flanks. With his Geiger counter ticking, he strokes the places between my ears. Okay. So I had some good news that I'll end with and say that it's really great to have this book. It's poetry, but I'm also a short story writer. And so coming out, and I have order forms and stuff like that, pre-order forms, for my collection of short stories called Stealing Home. So that's going to be coming out in September. Okay. So I would like to now take the time to introduce Anne Hursey. And she was a 2001 Jack Straw writer. Anne's Hursey's first poem, Wetland, rode the bus in 1977. Today, as a Riding the Land poet, she speaks for oak prairies, salt marshes, and riparian restoration. Her poems celebrate the resilience of our planet's diversity during climate change, and her work appears online and is in print journals as well as anthologies. So this is Anne Hursey.
I got my cast taken off yesterday. I had a broken wrist, so yay me. I'm here. All right, thank you. Is that good? Great. All right, so I can only say ditto to all the other praise to Kathleen and Jack Straw. I always said Jack Straw was the Energizer Bunny for writers. And so I was a 2001 cohort. What fun. So I am going to compress my prologue by not reading it because it took too long, so I'm not going to go over time. That's the plan. What you need to know about this book, Field Notes to Myolin's Confluence Project Landscapes, it's a hybrid narrative that contains small poems here and there, sometimes linked list poems, in collaboration with multiple people, multiple places, and timelines. So let me try to encapsulate it. There's the Confluence Project, founded in 2002, and they were founded to connect people to history, living culture, and ecology of the Columbia River system through indigenous voices. Hold on to that. Then along comes the Lewis and Clark Bicentennial in 2005 and 06. And someone said at Confluence, I think we need to tell the tribe story. So the tribal elders got together with the Confluence. There's a wonderful woman who started it, and they approached Maya Lin because they wanted her to be their lead architect and artist because she knew what grief was all about and how important the land is. You may, if you don't remember, Maya Lin was known to be the creator of the Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C. at the tender age of 21. It was a blind judging, and she got picked. And many of those elders were Vietnam vets. Hold on to that. Meanwhile, what does that have to do with me? Well, I found out about these landscapes because in 2012, I bought this little necklace at Pike Place Market with a petroglyph on it called She Who Watches. I didn't know anything about her, but I found her petroglyph and I did a lot of research. I wrote some poems about her, but then what is this petroglyph looking at? Well, she's on the Columbia River side, looking this direction, and there's her village, Celilo. And that's one of the landscapes planned by Maya Lin. So I began a journey. And where in these landscapes start at the mouth of the Columbia on the Pacific Ocean and end almost at the Idaho border at the Snake River, and the Snake comes into the Columbia and then goes. So we're talking 438 miles, but these 6 different installations are spread out. So, but why I wanted to do it was because when my husband and I went together to visit, we couldn't always find them. They're very well hidden. And they're designed for restoration of the land as well as telling the stories of the land and the people who live there. So let's just begin. And I chose one of the more different, I haven't read this one out loud because it's a little fun because Dave and I ended up at the Sandy River Delta Birdblind. Why? Because we were going to a Jethro Tull concert at McMenamins, and it was this intergenerational birthday party. So I'm going to read that section. Sandy River Delta Birdblind, Friday, June 8th, 2018. Oh, this is told like my field notes, okay? And I have a lot packed in here. Hold on tight. And the temperature is in the mid-50s, and it's overcast that day. And I have little poems. So when I'm doing the little tiny poems, I'll just go like this. And then the rest is text, like narrative. Troutdale, Oregon. A hard rain the night before. Muted grays and greens. Tomorrow's birthday party at McMenamin's outdoor music venue motivates us to visit our 3rd Maya Lin Confluence Project installation on the Sandy River Delta. The featured musician is Ian Anderson of Jethro Tull fame. He's on his 50th anniversary tour. Our motel is 2 miles from the Sandy River Delta, and we arrive a day early to hike the trail. And unlike the first two Confluence project sites, it is easier to find where the trail begins once you enter the park. And once in the parking lot, look for the gravel path marked Confluence. Be prepared to encounter dogs and their owners as you walk the 1.2 miles to the Sandy River. An off-leash dog park surrounds the Confluence Trail, which is ADA accessible. Dogs are not allowed on the trail, but many dog owners are not aware of this Forest Service rule. I heard that Maya Lynn imagined that her birdblind would be something that someone might stumble upon as they walk through the reclaimed meadows. To prepare for tomorrow's concert, I have been listening to Jethro Tull songs, and as I walk the trail, I hear lyrics play in my head from their hit song, Living in the Past. 2 lines from it. Happy and I'm smiling, walk a mile to drink your water. In another past, Lewis and Clark camped near the Sandy River Delta and complained, could not sleep for the noise kept by the swans, geese, white and black print, ducks, and opposite side, sandhill cranes. They were immensely annoying. That would be William Clark. 2 centuries later, I learned that 1,500 acres of invasive blackberry bramble have been cleared by hundreds of volunteers, a dam removed, and an aluminum plant dismantled from this once rich estuary. I'm going to lose my place. Sorry here. Okay, remediation was begun in the 1990s to remove the toxic soil. And as I walk the trail 10 years since Lynn's birdblind dedication, I am witness to this transformation. Reforestation begins, walking through meadows, yesterday's puddles. Reflecting silver against Nootka rose in bloom, drenched pink petals sag. I walk the flat trail and wonder how much farther until the birdblind. I hear my answer trilling in the canopy, shiny melodies. I look up into the abundant green and hear birdsong. I see Lynn's elegant, now weathered wood and metal ramp that leads up and then turns 90 degrees into an elliptical birdblind created from sustainably harvested black locust wood. Settlers planted this non-native tree for its rot-resistance wood, ideal for fence posts. And on each of the 120 wooden slats is carved the name of every animal species recorded by William Clark in his journal, including the birds that kept him awake. So each slat includes the date that the animal was first sighted, the animal's common and scientific names, and the status as of today, threatened, extinct, or still alive. I begin to read the engravings and revel in their names. This is a long list. Bird resembling lark, mountain cock, heath hen, polecat, McGowan's larkspur, western hognose snake, greater sage grouse, goldfinch, white-rumped loggerhead shrike, western tanager, northern Pacific rattlesnake, Columbian toad, large blackbird, raven, Columbia River chub, mountain sucker, crow. As I retrace my steps to the parking lot, I notice the new plantings of native trees and shrubs, and I tried to imagine what this land was like before Lewis and Clark's arrival. The Sandy River Delta is only 30 minutes east of Portland, Oregon, and I tried to imagine so many birds squawking that Lewis and Clark couldn't sleep, and I tried to imagine seeing so many species of mammals, birds, fish, and amphibians calling this river home. Oh, for a bench. Keep walking, I tell myself. The round trip is only 2.5 miles. And I want to sit down. My feet and legs grow tired. Alas, no benches. My stomach growls. Picnic tables await me. Off to the parking lot. But since writing this, they have added 2 basalt benches. So I will end with a wonderful quote by Antone Minthorn. He's the Confluence founding board chair and former chairman of the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation. He had this to say. It's the epigraph of this book. In the 200 years since Lewis and Clark, what happened to the tribes? What happened to the country? In 7 generations, this is where we are today. What are the next 7 generations going to be? And my book is, for on sale at $10. And the thing is, I also have these free brochures that Confluence now provides. If you go to their website, this did not exist when Dave and I were looking for the websites. But if there are enough to go around, help yourself. And if you don't have money, I'm taking cash and check. So I also have business cards, and you can buy the book online. And that's it for promotional, and thank you for being such a great audience. Okay.
Let's have another round of applause for Suzanne, Sharon, and Anne. We're going to take about a 5-minute break, and we'll be back very shortly. Stay tuned. will speak up, so thank you. Speak up, everybody. Okay. It's my pleasure to introduce the next reader, Raúl Sanchez, who was a 2014 Jack Straw writer. He is the former City of Redmond Poet Laureate, 2019 to 2021. Wow, that was an interesting time frame to be a poet laureate, I must say. He teaches bilingual poetry, and Raúl runs the Poetry in the Park bi-weekly readings at Meadowbrook Pond in Northeast Seattle, as well as the Neighborhood Poetry Poll, which is located in front of his house. Let's welcome Raúl.
Thank you, Deborah. It's good to see all faces and some new ones, and we'll get reacquainted with everybody. Gonna start the timing here, so that used to be fair, right? Well, thank you so much. How's the mic? Is it too close, too far? How's the level? We good? Okay, just checking. As a DJ volunteer for 14 years at KBCS, I had to know how to has the proper microphone distance and etiquette, because there are certain things you got the kill button. For my first book, title All Our Brown Skin Angels, published by Moonpat Press, Lana Ayers. This poem says a lot, and it tells you the reason why I'm here and why I do what I do. My father was a bracero. I know this. My father was a bracero. I hold his contract. Yellow paper full of restrictions and prohibitions. His pay stub, not enough to survive. I wonder what he had to endure. I wonder if the DDT sprayed on his face over the years contributed to his ailments, diabetes, asthma, the cerebral embolism that blinded him, laying railroad tracks, expanding commerce routes from Texas, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana. My father's dry sweat merged with that soil under a burning sun. Another nail on the ties. He went back to Mexico, Tenochtitlan, started a restaurant so he could send me to a private American school. He wanted me to learn their language, to live way north across the borderline. He didn't want me to live by my strong back, my strong arms, but by my words. A connotation, you made a reference to 1942. The Bracero program began exactly in 1942. My father signed up in 1944. He completed his service and he went back to Mexico. Why is it that those men that came here to rescue the American industry during that time have never been recognized as some of the people that came to, with their arms, braceros means arms, to save the industry at that time? You don't hear hardly anything about it anywhere. My father was a bracero. Next, from my second book, When There Were No Borders, published by Moonfat Press in Texas. The art is by Fulgencio Lasso, well-known artist, and this one also local artist. Another artist friend, Rene Julio, also another friend. I tried to collaborate with my people and others that like to contribute. References to culture are always in me, and they come up every now and then, and I use them to make allusion to what I remember that they evoke, mainly the sound and the aromas. Sinteotl, goddess of corn grown from earth, rain, and sun, kernels boiled, nixtamal, grinding corn into dough, amasando, smoothing the dough. Her soft hands soften the masa, grabbing a handful, left hand to right hand, begin to clap, 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 from one damned hand to the other, her fingers stiff with the slightest cup, and spring to the palm, clap and turn, laid on the comal, flipped over to cook the other side. My mother's hands, her spirit evoked when I cook, aroma of fresh tortillas, fragrance and moist, remembering the sound of her hands, clap and turn, clap and turn. Everybody likes some type of Mexican food here and there, and not everybody does it the way we remember how it's done. Funny, people ask me, where do you go to eat? I said, no, I eat at home. If I want to eat carne asada, I really know only one place that makes them really well. But everybody likes guacamole, right? And avocados. You're going to like this one. Ode to an avocado. You, shaped like an ovum, seed in the middle of the branches, hanging with all your brothers and perhaps your sisters. Did you know that I've known you since I was 5? I really didn't really know you then, but I heard about you at that time. You were presented, introduced in my mouth as a mushy, soft, sometimes tangy, spicy, oniony, decadent delicacy, served in small bowls and dipping dishes. That soft, green, creamy, buttery meat sensation in my palate could not identify the deliciousness under the hard, crusty skin that protects you. Dark green as my midnight dreams, bumpy as the cloudy days bereft of sunlight. Where have you been? Oh, I see, hiding beneath the bushel crates of transported imported food other immigrants harvested at the right time. South of the equator, where alpacas, mules, donkeys, and mountain goats go. Handled by those humble, brown-skinned hands from faraway lands, where the sun shines brighter. You are free, but trapped in a plastic mesh with 5 other guys. Your friends, I presume, even though the sign says 4 in a pack. Ahuacatl is your name, but nobody calls you that. I think I know why. Do you know why? Ahuacatl in Nahuatl, which is the language of the Aztecs, means testicle. So next time, now you know that because it has the shape of it, right? So now that you know that, next time you go to, and you're not going to do it, but go to the Mexican restaurant and ask the waitress, sir, could you please bring me a little bowl of that little green testicle sauce that you guys make that's delicious? They're going to look at you like, what the hell? So that's what it means. Ahuacatl is the name, and it's got the shape. Some time ago, about I don't know, over 25 years or so, I took a class with David Wagonier along with other writers at the time that were Samuel Green, Elizabeth Austin. But this one, I brought it into the workshop with David, and he liked it. He loved it. He told me that I don't need to make any changes. He gave me a lot of ideas. And I was very humbled and impressed because I was the only raisin in the bowl of milk. He didn't say that, I'm saying that. The shelter of your chest. Guard my backside from the thin knives of their dreary eyes. Guard me between azaleas and marigolds. Guard me between wood and musk in your misty meadow. Guard me between the roots of cedar and maple. In your snow-covered mountains, guard me burrowed in the wet sand ocean waves brush. Guard me between twilight and the early light, between mist and rain, thunder and storm. In the rainbow, guard me between azure and purple. Guard me between the sheets of your bed, tucked in like bald socks. Guard me from disdain. Guard me. Guard me inside, outside, over, under, beside your chest. Let us guard each other from the fallible. Keep the torchlight on. Raise your rose. I am your warrior. So, I like it. He liked it too. Lastly, public art. There have been in some occasions when I have participated in calls for public art and submissions here and there. There's 2 poems. I think there's a couple more at the moment. I don't remember. But the first 2 that are out there, still out there, are number 1 are, the first one is, this one is at the Hamlin Park on the 2nd field. It's titled Ode to an Oak Tree. It's still there. It was a project by Shoreline, and it is in a little niche and it's protected, and I'll share with you. The other one that is, I'm not going to share with you tonight is, you can see it. That's my timer. 8 minutes. Okay, stop. Something happened. It wasn't me. It's right there at the corner of Sandpoint Way and 121st. It's in memory of an event that happened in that part, that area, the shooting, etc. So right for the community. So to close, Ode to an Oak Tree, with the epigraph by Thomas Carlyle. When the oak is felled, the whole forest echoes with its fall, but 100 acorns are sown in silence by an unnoticed breeze. Acres of aging grand trees on the lower ground, boughs bending, rising and falling with the wind, randomly sinking and fainting, responsive bird songs, they ground covered with heart-shaped leaves and twigs. At night, the trees on the higher ground cast their shadows under the clear moonlight. Your branches, blown by the east-west wind, secrets told when the birds can't sleep. Full moon filled with countenance, dense, murky clouds, reds of fragrant pines, oak and cedar limbs, swish with the wind brushed. Your very old mystical greatness stands. Looking at the stars and the gorgeous clouds in summertime, your sun-drenched splendor shelters birds hanging on your moist branches. Crows, blue jays, chickadees, an eagle nests, nakedly standing in spring, your dormant roots thaw below the frozen ground. Do not say the roots are weak. These roots are strong, the very roots of being. Thank you. See, I'm walking away, forgetting. Sorry about that. All right, it is my pleasure to introduce Carletta Carrington Wilson. Is a 2000 Jackstraw writer. Through poetry, artist books, installations, and mixed media, Carletta Carrington Wilson discovers answers to questions she did not know to ask. This artist finds each artistic endeavor to be an act of excavation and a revelation. Her work is described as decorative with a message, end quote. Her poems continue to appear in local and personal publications. Thank you very much.
That's right. Thank you. First, I want to say thank you to Kathleen again, but also thank you to all of you. We've been at this for a long time. It's kind of like a reunion each time we come here. But it is also a blessing. It's a blessing because we continue to work over the decades and we continue to learn from one another. So, printed metal type announcements filled newspapers of the day with names, destinations, descriptions, and rewards. How free are you if you cannot extricate your body from vast bodies of type? I cast my eye on the role of books and printed matter in the 18th to 19th centuries as they apply to an enslaved body. For during this period, the first narratives of escape were published. So they were published in books, but what I want to say is that I see runaway slave advertisements as escape narratives, a form. So every poem I'm going to read is at its core about a body bound by societal restraints, and they are making their escape. The poem, Typeface of the Erased, consists of terms found in dictionaries and glossaries of printing and typographical terms. Typeface of the erased. Each wrist must risk errors of division, discontent content, typos that don't know typography from topography, or what holds a bastard body in the climb of a hairline's peculiar crotch, heel neck, dashes, where fist-swelled rules rule by imposition, sharp impression schemes laid out in coffin, casket, gutter, the slug, the punch, the pull, stabbed, battered, squashed, knife turned out, transposed, dragged, encased in chase, feet in galley, beard in pages, facing sheets, back in the hole, shoulder in the opening, ink in, ink over, offset, justify. Machine boys make ready, set tightly fonts, depth of strike. In the style of the house, do up the dirty proof on a dinky sheet. Drag, draw, bleed, choke, crease, cut the line, cut in head, cut off, cut down, set in teeth of cog. With signature sweepings and clerical errors, draw crossbars along a spine. Re-register the running headline in lucida black letter. Type designers bind living languages into neat rows composed of ship subscript, cane break font face, tobacco type, cotton the corpus, rice the rotunda, salty gothic brush-footed caravan cursive fonts bleed or bred upon a graphic ground. A 10-point body put to bed amid fox, devil dog, duckfoot slug, hell-bent elephant, dragon blood flies. As the shoe flies, weighs goose loose, goat skin, sheep skin, paper-thin hem, digs the dies, the double ender, that dropped head, erasing erasure. Been there, done that thing, 16 more, 24 more, 30, 32 more, and more. What said the head of a half-tone dandy rolling off the roller? He is a cast-off caption whose quarter-bound back is shredded by the whip stitchery of illegible strokes. His body embodies a type of typeface, whose problems of language are rigidly styled, hand-bound to be handed down, pressed to be impressed, then indelibly disappear, you hear. How to unfold oneself from the stock still fettering of unabridged letterings, whose grave accents leave a tombstone script, clinging to a breath's blur, beginning to burr into be or not be fictional, some figureless font typecast out of the past, but become singular, legible, an emboldened body whose gait upon the substrate prints the first footprint, an ardent imprint, and a barely touched beginning. Begetting, begetting, begotten, begone. The trade was at its apex. All manner of vessels plied rivers, bays, lakes, and seas, hunting and gathering bodies. Is not the body a book, each age a page, turning leaf by leaf until the last words fall silent? Among voluminous narratives of traders, ship captains, explorers, missionaries, discoverer, adventurers, and accounts, record books, ledgers, diaries, and ribbon-wrapped letters, where are the stories by the inventory? John Newton, composer of Amazing Grace and slaver, said this of the bodies: for the slaves lie in 2 rows, one above the other, on each side of the ship, close to each other, like books upon a shelf. Book of the bound. Not hand, mouth, nor eye to pry its ragged stock apart. Nay, no face facing the facing page, not one leaf through. Not linger a finger over sheet's cutting edge. 'Twill never be, for there is not plot, not place, nor time to ruminate contents. Pull the volume closer, inspect context. To begin is to end, and in the end, this tome has no home, finds no rest, no comfortable chair set anywhere. Yet the text began, has begun, goes on, abounds in wordless crossings, punctuates each stop in slashed paragraphs of dead, dying letters. Every sentence structure ripe and rank with rupture. Lines run, keep running, run on and on and on in a hands-bounding volume, a commonplace book, dictionary of the wary, biography of a certain typography. Of what place, from whence, at what price have these unreadable, unrecognized pages have been born? Ledger of the lost, codex of the caught, stitched in signatures bearing witness to moldy black typeset tracks writ in spit, ground down by footnote of smoke. How to describe a marked man's hands, picking them up in order to put them down, squeezing every letter until reams of screams fill flat matted sounds with the bold-faced smell of do tell, of whence, the future tense, penned in polyrhythm of schism and scar, feathered in tar, traveling oh so far down a chain link, inky think to stretch row after row into script-toed, slapped reflections of inflections to face, preface, text of pretext, vowels unto vowels, double meanings, subsequent expansions. See, he be who do, irregular, must become someone no one knew. Yes is how. An anonymous author, this unauthorized teller's plot lines, became blind. He composed himself under cover of dark. The blurb on the dusty jacket left purposely blank. Crossing margins, a reader of reeds, scholar of the collar, novelist of mist and fog, a mystery lost to history. For what is a book but a road? In addition to bodies, various goods were in high demand during the transatlantic trade, especially textiles, and dyes. Some dyes were as valuable as gold. In the poem A Madder Red, I connect certain dyes to the journey of a captive woman. Please note, when I say phylum, I mean P-H-Y-L-U-M. A Madder Red. In comes an invoice. There, under phylum, 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 the mad roots of madder plantings stretch across distant trails, gnarled, nodding, frayed, the way the business of a day unwhirls the world. You will never see a fleur-de-lis. Study paisley. Watch calico grow across yards. Wonder how brocade is made, or touch velvet's plush. Never be tasked to finger damask. The rage of this age is tinctoria of diaspora. Mollus purple, cochineal red. As long as the dye bath lasts, it will stink to high heaven of piss, shit, the dead, the dying, infusions of confusion, soaking woof and weft of your breath. Two-head woman, don't look back. Grab, snatch, pull, drag. Weigh this life against the other weight, the one you carried until heaviness slowed the coffle down. Madder red, fill ahead, come undone, where the thread bear patterns of repeating figures, stitched across scrotums, embroidered upon wombs, every body pieced out of an incomprehensible cloth whose bolts unravel, become remnant, swatch, must be watch, for they run. Okay, so that's the 18th and 19th century. And this is the reason why I'm here today, is because, thanks to Raven Chronicles. Raven Chronicles has supported my work for decades, and I'm indebted to them for this. Phoebe Boucher, exactly, for this work. Poem of Stone and Bone. So, it is about the sculptor James W. Washington, Jr. Mr. Washington was born in Mississippi in the early 20th century. It occurred to me that from childhood even to adulthood, Mr. Washington was surrounded, the fabric of his community included formerly enslaved people. The last, basically, they've mostly lived to about 1941, so you get a perspective. So there were people around for long. But I realized if he's born, they say between 1902, they never give exact date, to 1911, 12, he not only probably had relatives who were formerly enslaved, but clearly they were in the community. So the Washingtons, so this is Mississippi. The Washingtons moved to Washington State in 1945. He was he was in Bremerton. They came to Seattle, bought a house. He built a studio. And in 2011, I had a residency there. One of the fascinating things about Mr. Washington is his sort of spiritual perspective. But also, I went in the basement, and he has a library. And I'm not just talking about a row of books. He has a room, a dedicated room with shelves of books on all walls, and then shelves in the middle. If any of you know some of the smaller Seattle public libraries, like Madrona Sally Goldmark or Wallingford, really, really tiny, it reminded me of that. It was basically a full Dewey Decimal run. Now, why did I tell you that? They moved here in 1945. But libraries were segregated until 1965. And so I said, wow, brilliant. Build your own library. And that, he wasn't the only one. So this is what some people did. They bought the books. So I, that library and those books, that was the foundation of my project, which included installations, the foundation of my project at the Washington Foundation. I went and I collected names of these books and created the poem of Stone and Bone. Along civilization's trail, something went wrong. What to say if they come in the morning? King's blood royal, monkey on a string, substance and shadow, the uncalled, yesterday, today, and forever, bearing witness to the truth. The way of the wizard, mystics and Zen masters journey into light, souls on fire, born to rebel. Temples, tombs, and hieroglyphs. This is what we found. The unheavenly city. City of the great king, the eternal city, child of two worlds, miracle in stone, born in blood, walking on water, remaking men, jazz men, 2 or 3 gathered together, 7 came through, 13 against the odds, moving on up, master men, making a go of life. Deep is the hunger in life's springtime, the soul's sincere desire somewhere to be had. Steered by a star. Stars of thought go up for glory, the crowning experience, the beautiful necessity beyond east and west. Here's how and when his eyes on the sparrow, butterflies and moths, the serpent and the rainbow, the great red dragon coming of age in Mississippi. Here is your war. 4 days, 1,000 days, blind spots, seeds of conflict, the tear in the cup. The yoke, unquenchable black fires, wings of the morning, ravens, crows, magpies, jays, lifting as they climb unto the hills. Sir Boss, lame deer, seeker of visions, please don't shoot my dog. Make your own bread and roses from stone, from ether to cosmos. Unto thee I grant 7 stars and Orion, the shape of illusion, the magic of obelisk, the edge of infinity, the divining hand, twice soul, twice ransom. Moon, moon, blood on the moon. Beneath the stone, the royal path of life, the luminous darkness, parting the water, excuse me, while I kiss the sky. This side of innocence, eyelids of morning, cosmic magnetism, water and ice, the magic of honey, every living creature, a feast of flowers, the pupil of the eye, the invisible fulcrum, in tune with the infinite. This wonder world, library of mesmerism, the uncommon commonplace, murmurs of earth, the incredible egg, the key of the mystery, the great within, the inward sea, the invisible empire. Here I stand beside the still waters, the man who talks with the flowers, the man who found out why the beautiful ones are not yet born. Hear me talking to you. I heard the owl call my name. The forge note, a new song in a strange land. Heat, sound, and light. Blood, sweat, and tears. Answer to history. Let there be sculpture. Poems of cabin and field, buried cities recovered, landmarks and surface markings, the evidence of things not seen. I just want to say one more thing. What I meant to say before I read this poem was that, so they moved here in 1945, but when Mr. Washington was a child, his father was chased out of town by the Klan. And years later, he said in his papers, and I escaped. So I went to this theme of escape and leaving. And when I saw that from 1965, that they were not able to go into libraries, he was escaping the South. Well, you know, it's interesting. So we're talking about the South mainly. However, it doesn't preclude that the North did not have its own. Maybe it wasn't.
The movie theaters in Seattle were segregated.
Right. So it means that. So I mean, why else would they build this library in that house? I'm sure that they were not welcome into the library in the North. But in the North, there were, and people were literally arrested for trying to use the library. But, well.
Gee, now they're just banning all the books again.
I know. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. So we're going to welcome Deborah Woodard, 1998 and 2000 Jack Straw writer. Deborah Woodward's books include Plato's Bad Horse, Bear Star, 2006, Borrowed Tales, Stockport Flats, 2012, and No Finis, Triangle Testimonies, 1911, Ravenna Press, 2018. She has translated Amelia Rosalidi's poetry and Hospital series by New Directions, 2015, Obtuse Diary, Entre Rio Books, 2018, and The Dragonfly, Entre Rio Books, 2023. Welcome, Deborah Woodard.
Well, the book that I'm going to read from is actually a translation of I'm going to read excerpts from a long poem called The Dragonfly by Amelia Rosselli. And in Italian, the word for dragonfly is libellula. And that word contains within it the word for both libel and little book. So what she did in this poem is she basically riffed off poets she admired, her mentors and contemporaries. And in one place, she riffs off herself as well. So I'm just going to read three parts. The first part is from a motif that runs through the book with the recurring line, "I don't know." And those passages were inspired by the crazed but brilliant lyric poet Dino Campana. And let's go with that first off. I don't know if between green summer's smile and your green difference there is a difference. I don't know if I rhyme from enchantment or unhappy pain. I don't know if I rhyme from enchantment or from reason, and don't know if you know that I rhyme wholly for you. Too much sun has drenched the sea in its placid prison, where the weave of the sea refuses to lay a hand on the sunken vessels. Dawn shades to gray in the distance. I don't know if among the pale rocks I met the glance. I don't know if among monotonous cries I met your glance. I don't know if between mountain and sea there is also a river. I don't know if between coast and desert a river approached revives. I don't know if in the mist you approach. I don't know if you stumble or tremble. You don't know if I cry or despair. Despairing, despairing, despairing. It's all a fabricating. You don't know if I cry or despair. You don't know if I laugh or despair. I don't know if among the pale rocks your smile. I don't know if among the pale rocks your smile appeared to me, O deity of the resplendent mains, O cypress in the sun. I don't know if among the pale rocks of your glance lay in wait youth and enchantment. I don't know if between the rough cheeks of your glance lay in wait fire wells or mercy. I don't know how to thank you, and don't know your dwelling, and don't know if this cry reaches you. I don't know if the infant who seeks you is the old woman who binds you. I don't know if the riverbank is wide or the infant is dead. I know not, see not, am not for you, who are, who live, who vibrate, who remain beyond sweetness. I wouldn't play the rattles if I knew how swiftly you enter the heart. I wouldn't play this dance if I knew I wasn't alone. I wouldn't play any dance if you were singing. We don't cry if youth goes astray. We don't laugh if the father's an idle aristocrat. We don't laugh if mirth's an idle merry-go-round. We don't laugh and we don't regret. And we don't know if crying or laughing, we aren't janitors for grown-ups. We don't break the little ones' tails. We let everything be as it can. Don't fall, don't win, don't lose, don't annoy. Don't break out in solemn laughter. Don't spill out in revolt. Saddened, you soften. Lover of power, you toughen up. The second selection is an adaptation which in some respects is fairly close, but it goes in many interesting, nuanced directions in terms of what it adds, of a poem by Rimbaud about a sex worker named Hortense. And here it is, her version of Hortense, Hortensia in Italian. Some translators translate Hortensia with the French Hortense, but I really love the sound of the word Hortensia in Italian, so I maintain that. Find Hortensia. Her mechanics is ejaculatory solitude. Her solitude is ejaculatory mechanics. Find the monstrous gestures of Hortensia. Her solitude is populated with specters, and specters populate her with solitude. And her love ruminates and can't leave the house, and thus her light vibrates between the walls, with light, with specters, with love that never leaves the house. With only the specter of love, with love's reflection, with disenchantment, enchantment, and frenzy. Seek Hortensia, seek her vibrant humility that can't find peace, and that can't find farewell for anyone, and that always bids farewell, and to no one, and tips to everyone her little summer hat, with an uncommon show of piety. Find Hortensia, who in her solitude populates the civilized world with savages. And the guitar's song no longer satisfies her, and the guitar's pardon no longer satisfies her, Find Hortensia, who dies among the lilacs, fragile and forgotten, smiling and fragile, among the lilacs of the valley, pitying, petrified. Find Hortensia, who dies smiling among the lilacs of the valley. Find she who dies and smiles and is strangely happy among the lilacs of the villa of the valley that ignores her. Populated is her solitude with specters and fables. Populated is her joy with strange grass and strange flower that holds its scent. And finally, I'm going to read from the end of the poem. So, Rosselli wrote this poem when she was around 29, and presumably she wrote, it was originally like 100 pages. Fortunately, or not, she tended to discard her notebooks when she was done, because I've certainly spent a lot more than 2 weeks on this translation. And sometimes I think about how much more time one spends on the translation than the author spent on the original, which doesn't mean that it's more of an accomplishment. I mean, the accomplishment is the original work that is such a feat of mystery and resonance that it can take a really long time to attempt to put some of that over into the target language, in this case, English. And one thing about translating Rosselli is that I've never gotten tired of translating her, though I will say I feel a certain relief that I finally finished this poem, which I believe I started around 1996. Of course, there was a lot of downtime, and worked on extensively with 2 co-translators. And I'd also like to thank my current co-translator, Roberta Antagnini, because without her, it would have been impossible to bring this work to completion. And because she is such a phenomenal scholar that she has put my mind to rest on numerous issues. Not just the veracity of the English in regard to the Italian, but the way she always can hear those depths of mentorship from Dante and Petrarch, along with the other writers who Rosselli frequently has recourse to. So the ending is, despite all this time of working on this poem, a complete mystery to me, but I do enjoy it a lot. Well fortified against the rain, well subdued by grief, well delivered amidst the many filters of experiences, knowing the light is your mother, and the sun is almost your father, and your limbs your children, knowing and hushing and speaking and vibrating and forgetting and finding the shadow of Jesus, who knew how to untwist himself from misery in good time for the flesh of God, for the Spirit of God, for the excellence of his lines, the dogged perfection of his responses, his stray-like spirit. Knowing that the voracious summit sinks in a transport you can't always reach, knowing that each piece of your flesh is coveted by dogs, behind the tent of farewells, behind the tear of the solitary, behind the importance of the new sun that brings meager company if you're alone. Ruin the house the guard brings you. Ruin the bird that wouldn't dream of staying in your tidy nest. Ruin the ink that sneers at your ingratitude. Ruin the archangels who don't know where you hid the angels, who don't know how to fear. Thanks. So let's have another round of applause for all of our readers, for Jack Straw, for Kathleen, and thank you.